one of the we created a lot of these variables, historical variables about the manager. Like you pointed out, that was a very important factor. A particular manager, like we have this history of about 6 years. So if he, over the 6 years, had a record of higher attrition, then the employees are working under him were at higher risk. So we took the manager attributes by looking at the historical people that were leaving him. That's how we brought in that. We can take the questions offline
as well. Yeah. But I think the main idea was to understand what are the factors so that we can help company and as well as a professional so that we can retain the top talent. That was the idea in retention analytics. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Kalyani and Abhishek. Ladies and gentlemen, going ahead, moving forward. The next topic is real-time predictive models. Is it a reality? Are they possible? Success stories. Yes. And the person coming in to talk on this particular given subject is, he is at Game Theory Sunder, leads the product strategy and development. Previous to Game Theory, he was the global managing partner at Meritus Analytics, a WPP company. He has won numerous recognitions in the industry. Notable ones include awards from MRSI, Marketing Research Society of India, for the best paper, that is Assessing Marketing Effectiveness, and Best of ESO MAR for 2014 for an innovative approach on creating an integrated marketing ROI framework for measuring paid, owned, and earned effects on the brand. Ladies and gentlemen, the person is CEO for Asia Pacific at Game Theory. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Sunder Muthuraman.
Hi, good afternoon. Is the mic audible? The gentleman at the end there. Is it loud enough? No. No sound? No? Yes? No? Check. Yes here. Right at the back? Thank you. Okay. Or should I use a different mic? All right, cool. Okay, so I have about 25 odd slides. Obviously in sessions like these, the expectations can be pretty varied. What I've kind of tried to look at is really what we do. Maybe we should have just fine-tuned that session topic a little more. What I'm going to be speaking about is about real-time predictive analytics in the marketing context, and especially where data is from multiple sources, obviously of different granularity and different latency. So that's the context in which I'm pitching in real time, and is it a reality, and is it the kind of, and the problems that we are solving for some of our customers. So let me just quickly run through what I have here. I'll try to kind of, it really depends on interest level. So during the presentations, I'll be asking you to do some things. So it depends on the participation levels. I'll know whether I'm kind of cutting through, making sense, keeping interest. If not, I'm just going to move through the stuff I have quickly and then, kind of take more time on questions. That's really how I'm planning the afternoon or the half an hour I have, okay? So what am I going to do? I'm going to look at two contexts as examples as I run through the storytelling that I have here for you today. One is the CPG context in how we are helping our clients make decisions in the marketing 4P space, in pricing, distribution, or in A&P and so on and so forth. The other is an interesting context where we're trying to kind of help clients, leading studios, maximize ROI from box office. So both these contexts, I'm kind of focusing on what's needed to kind of make decisions here and now every day, or whatever real-time context I'm going to set moving on here. Sorry, I think there's some color issues, but there's supposed to be an arrow behind the dots. But nevertheless, I'm just going to pitch 6, contexts of the process in the box and, whatever else that we do to kind of help our clients make these decisions. That's the enablement that we provide, right? So let me run through each of these. And I'll give you examples of how we've gone about doing, the real-time context. And obviously I'm here to say, yes, it is possible. and I'll run you through what we've done, right? So I think the primary important is defining the problem correctly, right? What is real time? In many contexts, where we go for meetings, clients come and say, hey, can I get it this minute, tomorrow? I get digital data every second. What can I do with it? But then you pitch back and say, hey, you have this data. I can come back and automate some processes. Some models can run. It'll tell you what is better than something else. And then it goes back to saying, oh, this is all great, but I can't actually activate or take this to action. So that's a big problem we encounter. So today it's not about the data or the data tech or the analytical context, but it's more about what can you do with that information and what you find from that, right? So the first context therefore is what is real time? In many instances, I think it's obviously by the second, by the minute, and we live this era. But in most marketing contexts, it's about what I can take and do with it in terms of an action. So if you want a brand to change its price, it's not going to happen every second. If you want the brand to even change its advertising communication, that doesn't happen every minute. Maybe in some contexts you say digitally I can change it, but 90% of that investment today goes elsewhere and you can't change it in less than 15 days. So the paradigm really, or the question really is what is real time? And in many instances you realize as you start discussing, it's more the fad of the hour rather than the need that they can go and kind of do something with. So more importantly, defining what real time is and getting that information in that time is also something that I want all of us to consider as real time. Box office, interesting. There's quite a bit of build up that happens from the time somebody announces a script, the star cast and so on and so forth. But the real marketing and the money investment happens 6 weeks prior to the opening of that show, right? So what can you do? How do you kind of course correct in that 6 weeks to maximize box office returns is another context I'm trying to give you. Even there, it's not about taking decisions by the second. It's about what you can do on a daily basis, right? So that's what I want to set up front and saying real time is not about something buzzing on my phone here and now, but something that I can go and act upon, right? And more importantly, knowledge is asking the knowledge is obviously knowing the answer, but asking the right question is really the intelligence that we need to kind of have as analysts, and that's something that we kind of tell our customers, take a great amount of pain to define what meaningfully data analytics and data-driven decision making can solve, right? So it has to be usable for the business and obviously achievable with the given data context that a client has at that point in time or what we can acquire out there in the market, right? So here is this, whether I'm checking whether we have the interest in the room. Well, this is my view, right? In saying that, I'm just defining a problem on how we look at it, right? What is the long-term ROI of advertising is a question a lot of people ask us. But we would like to think in saying that data and analytics can help solve, yes, we can answer all that, but it's realistically about how can we maximize ROI from advertising investments. So in a raise of hands on people who agree with my view, okay, or maybe shout out yes, so maybe we'll do a voice vote. Yes. Okay, and those who disagree with me? I mean, this is not the right answer or the wrong answer, it's just wanting a point of view from all of you. So for all those who disagree, you can all yell out no. At 1, 2, 3. No. Okay, so you all agree, fine, okay. So here's, I'm not answering this one, so there's only one no, we'll come back to you in question hour, okay. So the second bit again, I'm just trying to again ask you to tell me which is a better question to solve, right? The first or the second one, I'm assuming all of us are data analysts or data interested people in the room. Which is a better question to answer? Okay, a raise of hands for, or yes for one, the first one? Can't see, okay, I'll read it. Predict the box office return for XXX investments. That's the first question. The second is identify lead indicators of box office returns and maximize outcome. So the first question, yes for the first question or a raise of, okay, let's say raise of hands for people who believe the first one is right. Okay, so handful. And a raise of hands for the rest, is there anybody who believes there's a different framing of the question? A raise of hands, please. We'll come back in the question hour again. A raise of hands for people who believe we'll have to frame it differently. So she's got some pet topics to discuss later on. Okay, good. So the idea is to say that, set expectations and, understand what data can solve and what meaningfully can add value to the business. Data for data, data for data's sake, analytics for analytics' sake, and a fancy presentation does nobody any good, right? So the idea is to move the needle for the business, and we believe again, and thanks for being with me on that, is the second way is a better way of framing that question. So it's important to frame the question because what you go about collecting, doing, presenting, researching are very different for both these things. There might be a huge amount of common stuff, but it can be fairly different, right? So the second one I said, define data rules. First, let me give you some examples. Okay, so here is an interesting thing. We found after many rounds of failing that the auction price of tea, this is an Indian example, impacts how much of branded tea is consumed in the market. So which means in times when auction price of tea in Nilgiris and SM go down, we have found that branded tea volumes go down in the market, right? So that's an interesting example where our early models did not have this information and therefore we were failing in our predictions. Our engines were failing. Nothing was wrong with the data. Nothing was wrong with the engine. We didn't have the relevant data to kind of feed the right answer, right? The second one is, in the box office context, all of us have heard about positive, negative, and neutral sentiments that come from social media tracking, right? So we've gone a step further. We've classified it into many buckets, I'm just keeping it simple, and using specific information from these segments to kind of tell us or, play lead indicator role of what can be the box office outcome. So we know that, from a certain segment of the population, if the buzz is low, we know the box office opening is going to be low, right? So it's about segmenting that data, using the right context, and taking that relevant information is extremely critical in being successful in the real-time paradigm that I'm kind of referring to. So none of these is, like the auction tea prices is not a stock market that changes every second, but it still does change, fairly periodically. It's important to kind of capture that. So I'm just going to, again, I'm not preaching to the choir, so to speak. It's like there are many other things that we go through as data analysts every day. How can we automate? How can we make sure that the data flows are consistent without mistakes and so on and so forth? There's a great part of where our investment and time go into. Accountability, when I say there's a multi-data flow, data source context, multiple people own the data, and many a time we go in and somebody wakes up and says, oh, this is wrong data, this is right data. That's a continuous challenge we face. So while at one end we want real time, at the other end there is nobody taking ownership of that data and information in real time, and that's a struggle. And obviously there are rules that we need to generate. Information is captured as a bill, but it's not captured as a deployment. A typical example in our business is how promotions are captured in our client databases. It sits as a billing item and not as when the promotion was kind of seen in the outlet. For modeling, we need to know when the actual promotion happened to be able to make sense of it. So there are some rules we need to create. And more importantly, can we create auto-generate exceptions in the context of the business we are in is really where I think a big difference can be made to kind of understand the context and set the kind of notion of what analytics can deliver in real time. So what we have done is for all the data sources, we've created a set of rules that publish exceptions from that rule, not in a data quality sense, but in terms of a business sense. If you're able to kind of correlate that to automatic models that are getting built to kind of combine the two and say a story. So from a marketing context, it's important to not just predict or forecast and have the fit to be good. It is also important to say why something happened. And why is usually answered by what we capture as exceptions or what has changed in the data between when the update happened and the prior period to which we have the reference. So these are some headline items I thought I'll just share. Let me just move on. If you want real-time insights, it's important to understand how you triangulate what are the models and what are the structures that you use to kind of get to the results. Obviously, in the historic era, we all believed that there is one way, one model, one best model that kind of explains the situation. We have kind of transcended that era thanks to computing and everything else that we can do on a machine today, to say every situation can actually have a dozen or more models if you want, and choose among the best. You can have all of them operating at the same time, choose the best 3, best 9, whatever you want to kind of take a call on. The idea is to say, can we triangulate rather than trying to kind of stick to one version of truth. And then the reason is very simple. Any modeling is a simplification of the real complex world out there. So it doesn't capture everything that's happening out there. So we believe a multitude of approaches, combining and then delivering the kind of result, tells the story better, gives us more accurate forecasts, right? Okay. So usually, we believe life is linear, and in many instances we find that it is not. Obviously, it's a chicken and egg question. If you go to a typical CPG context, the typical, for those of us who went to marketing class, there's an IDA model. People become aware, they develop interest in your product, and then they come and buy you, right? But that's hugely short-circuited. Today, you may come across the product even before you saw the ad or any communication that was intended or was a brand message for the product. So there are instances where we have found that it's not advertising that drove sales, but the fact that the brand was present in a certain channel or in a certain outlet that actually triggered the sale. So the relationships have changed, and our models need to be conscious of checking these relationships and changing those with the need of that brand or whatever is being modeled. And that's similar with box office as well. Is promotion driving social media, or is social media driving box office? They are interconnected. The reversals can happen pretty much depending on what the title is, who the star is, and what's the kind of buzz out there in the market or an expectation from the star and so on.